Hey, what's up, mafias? Welcome back to The Commute. And in this podcast, I'm actually joined by Shubham. He works as an Android developer and he has a lot of experience in automotive industry, music players like Wing. He has freelance experience and working in Flutter as well. So there's a lot to learn from this podcast. I hope you guys really enjoy it. And if you do, you know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe. And for now, let's get started. I usually start off this podcast by asking a very simple question. How do you define stable life for yourselves?
Okay, stable life. So, talking about that, I think to be satisfied in your work and then having time to utilize in your other stuff. Maybe you are having some habits, let's say reading or working out or something. So, having your enough time to invest in that as well as satisfied with your work as well. So, I think that would be stable for me.
Yeah, yeah. I try to ask these questions because what happens is people value different things in their life, and the value of stability is particularly different for different people. Like some people might value freedom over money, and they tend to have. That's why they become founders or freelancers.
Mm.
And whereas stability is much more valued by the employees, that's why they are working full time. So
Right.
yeah. So the idea behind this question is just to understand where someone's priorities lies and why they do whatever they do. So that's the idea. Um, Other than that, what's your story? How did you got into get into Android development, and why did you choose app development versus web or some other technology? What's your story overall?
Okay, so the thing was like after I graduated, actually, while I was graduating, at that time I was into backend, right, using
Mm-hmm.
Spring Boot and all for the backend as of backend frameworks. And I'm mostly into backend. I was
Mm-hmm.
mostly into backend, and from that, at some point, I think like it was wrong, but I think like I have a pretty good knowledge of backend. Let's see how
Mm-hmm.
frontend is working and all.
Mm-hmm.
So firstly, I joined some of the startup after I graduated from my university. Like I was from the Kurukshetra University.
Mm-hmm.
So I firstly joined one of the startup, and from there I chose as a Android development as my stack. And over here, it's a purely service based organization,
Mm-hmm.
and in that, I will say I grasp couple of good knowledge about Android development, how it
Mm-hmm.
works, its new architectures like MVVM, MVI, these stuffs, and there is a lot of stuff to work on in a startup, and you will
Mm-hmm.
like much ideas in different technologies, different
Mm-hmm.
directions. I will say
Mhm,
not only Android, you will be like startup will be putting you in some kind of hybrid development as well. Let's say Flutter
mhm,
or using React Native or something.
mhm,
So from there, I'm having a good grasp of knowledge. I think that would be good for the starting of my career.
mhm,
And then from there, I got into Airtel.
mhm,
And Airtel, I worked with Wink Music, which is
mhm,
like a well-known music streaming app. And
mhm,
after that, I was into Extreme Play,
mhm,
again Airtel's product, which is into movies and OTT
mhm,
platforms.
mhm,
Recently, now after I think 3 years, I changed into Gartner now.
mhm. So, like when you started uh, like I myself started from a service-based company,
Hmm.
and I got into service-based. I was actually not doing much of Android, but rather Flutter,
Hmm.
and got into hybrid apps. And the advantage I think of service-based companies is that you're exposed to a lot of stuff when you're
Right.
developing very small startup products, because you're concurrently working with a backend team and trying to help them make the APIs as fast as possible while working on the front end as well. So
Right.
that's advantage for service base, but again, the code base is not exactly very
Yeah.
good in service based companies. That only happens in when you get into product based companies. So yeah, again, that's I guess everyone's story is like that. Um,
Hmm.
so, like when you were working in Wink Music, what were like? How did you? What did you observe as differences? Like I've seen that I think Airtel is like more Java based, I guess. Um,
Nothing like
And
that actually.
yeah,
uh, okay, so firstly, we will like discuss about the differences, right?
yeah, yeah.
So when I was working with a service-based company, firstly I thought I was doing like the best code I can, and there were no proper PR reviews as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a developer, you raise a PR, and then there will be a proper review of that, and then only the code is merging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, there is no proper architecture which they are following, whether it's the code architecture, whether it's on the basis of Git, right? The version
Mm-hmm.
control we are using.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't also didn't follow any kind of proper branching as well in the
Mm-hmm.
service when we started. However, when I got into product based, like let's say in Airtel, there was proper branching, there was proper Git they are
Mm-hmm.
using. Also, there was proper Scrum ceremonies as well. If you talk
Mm-hmm.
about sprint plannings, proper sprint plannings, using
Mm-hmm.
products like Jira, managing their stuff, having
Mm-hmm.
proper sprint meetings, and then
Mm-hmm.
the burn down chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
After every sprint is over.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
the technology also, what I noticed is like these companies, like the product based companies, are more focusing on the quality, and
Mm-hmm.
they were giving time to a particular, a particular, a new, let's say a new requirement comes from the product end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they are and there is a new feature which we have to build, let's say both the web platforms and both the web and
Mm-hmm.
mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a mobile developer, they are giving you the proper time to
Mm-hmm.
do that to to complete that feature, and they
Mm-hmm.
want it to be completely robust. They didn't want that you hurry up and just complete the work, and there would be a lot of edge cases which are
Mm-hmm.
still hanging. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so this is the thing. They want proper architecture, proper
Mm-hmm.
edge cases to be covered with old test
Mm-hmm.
cases written as well. So the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, the code is maintainable as well as scalable and
Mm-hmm.
reliable as well. So these are the things which are different in both the things, like
Mm-hmm.
companies which I noticed.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that like most of the service-based companies, like the one I came from, they don't do any UI tests and UI or instrumentation tests. And what happens is that when you try to release an app, you have to go through multiple rounds of a QA testing so that to make sure that your app is working correctly. You can just reduce that time in ginormously just by doing writing tests perfectly and instead of pushing a lot of I think so because of the time guidelines it might be the service based companies push that,
Right.
but
Hmm.
in product based I think so it's completely different where they try to maintain performance over anything, performance and the quality of the code over anything else. So I think that's the difference.
Exactly.
um yeah.
Hmm.
Other than that, like when you were working with Wink Music, how did you, when you're talking about music-based systems like Spotify as well, what are the challenges that these kind of apps face? Like, what is the technology that goes behind the system?
Okay. Got it. So if I talk about the backend, then it will be all, what we say, content delivery network, CDN, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
CDN will be providing you the network, like let's say music. So it will be
Mm-hmm.
providing you the music, and the technologies would be same, like the MP3 files you are using. And like if I go into like get deeper into the technical stuff, that it would be Exoplayer or something, which is library we are using at the front end,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like uh, if you talk about the difficulties or challenges we faced as a music app, will be, let's say you're showing some notifications, right, on the
Mm-hmm.
music app, and then there are some Chinese OEMs as well in the market, let's
Mm-hmm.
say Realme,
Mm-hmm.
right? And these, when you close the app, like in general, if I talk about, you're listening to some song, let's say you play
Mm-hmm.
some song in the music app, and then you
Mm-hmm.
close the app, you kill the app,
Mm-hmm.
then your service is still running and the notification is still showing it's a foreground
Yeah,
service
yeah,
or
yeah.
something, right? But some of the Chinese OEMs will kill that service, right? So to start that service again, you're using something like Work Manager or something, or
Mm-hmm.
there is a particular service as well as provided by the from the Google itself, right, where they have managed everything,
Mm-hmm.
these edge cases. So
Yeah.
yeah, there are things we have to figure out as well. Uh, in whatever field we are, let's say you talk about we talk about music. So I told
Mm-hmm.
you, like Google has provided their own service for that, for covering all the edge cases and
Mm-hmm.
whatever for the Chinese OEMs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are the things we have to figure out.
Yeah, yeah. Like when you're working with like these services as well, I think I actually previously had a talk with the team lead of Make My Trip, and he was actually making his own version of a true caller kind of app. I think the one of the challenges that he faced was that when he was trying to install this true caller replica of an app into Chinese OEMs, I think so Truecaller remains open, while that's how it is able to detect the calls. And in Chinese OEMs, I think it somehow gets killed.
Hmm.
I think so that it's the difference in the layer of OS that Redmi phones and MI phones use. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, OEMs matter,
Mm,
but for the true caller, simply if I talk about, so I think it's not always open. Like at least in my phone, I was using Samsung.
mm,
Right?
mm,
So in the Samsung and other devices, I have noticed this. But Truecaller is doing is like it's
mm,
not opened every time. They are not
mm,
running a service which is known as a foreground or something, so that it's
mm.
always in the foreground. And but whenever you got a call, it's having a pop up with the screen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
They are just let's say it's something like uh, pull, we can say, let's say Firebase. So we
Mhm.
are having Firebase notifications, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's Firebase messaging service. So let's say
Mhm,
there is some kind of Firebase messaging that they are sending,
mhm,
and on whenever you receive that Firebase messaging, then
mhm,
they are showing that pop-up, and there is a permission
mhm,
specifically for that. Let's say in the manifest there is something I didn't prefer the, like I didn't remember the exact name, but it's something like uh, overlay over the overlay. It's kind of overlay. It's known as
okay.
overlay permission, right?
Mhm,
So they are taking that overlay permission, like the true callers maybe,
mhm,
and then they are showing that their kind of UI. I
mhm,
mean, it's not necessary that they are running some kind of service always in the background or foreground
mhm,
to
mhm.
monitor the calls and something.
Okay, so it might be like some kind of a broadcast receiver who just receives an
Right.
intent and
Yeah,
on receive fires a notification. That notification triggers the overlay. That's
exactly.
that's what.
Exactly. So I have done
Yeah.
these things in the some of my real apps as well. So I think
Okay.
that can be a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Other than that, you worked with OTT as well. So, like, what's the difference between like normal apps that we use in day to day life versus the OTT? How's the? I think so. Modelization would be different. The architecture might be completely different. Uh,
No,
yeah.
actually, yeah. So yeah, the architecture is not at all different. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
generally, if you talk about any of the app which is having, you know, a mobile version and an OTT version, let's say
Mm-hmm.
Spotify or something, you can take a movies app, right? So in the movies app as well, which is having a mobile version and OTT version,
Mm-hmm.
in that the code base is and the architecture is almost similar. Only the
Mm-hmm.
thing matter, I think, is the focus handling.
Okay.
Let's say you are yeah. So let's say you are having an app, you are running a OTT platform on some kind of smart TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a smart TV, you're using remote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the remote, you are having buttons. There is no touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the button is using the button. You have to shift left, right, up and down, or
Yeah, yeah.
center,
Yeah.
you know, enter kind of things. So in that, you have to do focus handling. So
Mm-hmm.
focus handling means there should not be any case where your focus is going. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you're having 10 elements on the screen. So
Mm-hmm.
there might be cases basically in the Android architectures, like uh, in the platforms, sometimes the focus goes off from like the entire screen, right? From
Mm-hmm.
all of the 10 of the scopes you are having. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to do the focus management, like for the edge cases as well. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
user is going in a left direction and he's at the last, and now he can't go more. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to handle those focus
Mm-hmm.
these focus handling manually. You have to do things. However, in mobile there
Okay.
is no such cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I didn't think there is any kind of architecture difference, because whatever I worked on, there are no architectural differences as well, because all the APIs and everything, because it's Android only, so only the
Mm-hmm.
focus management differs in case of OTT and smart apps, like smart
Mm-hmm.
apps.
So, like when it comes to like OTT platforms as such, if we were to let's just say that we already have some kind of app that is, suppose that we have a startup, we already have released some kind of app in our native mobiles. We want to make an OTT platform to release maybe in the TV, smart TVs. What's your advice here to someone who wants to release this kind of app? How should they proceed?
I mean, which what kind of advice? I mean,
I mean, like, we already have an app, right?
hmm,
We already have an app. We want to add and release it in like TVs, Android TVs as well, right?
hmm.
It's only available in Play Stores right now, but we want to go on to Android TVs. What's the process of taking this Android app to Android TVs? That's what I'm asking.
Okay. So, in the let's say you're having some mobile app and it's on the Play Store already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the OTT, you have to just release as an OTT version on the Play Store firstly,
Mm-hmm.
and your code base will be same. But for the UI part, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for the code base, I mean your backend APIs, your repositories. If I talk about
Mm-hmm.
properly, like technically, so your
Yeah.
repositories, your data stores will remain same. However, for the UI, you have to do focus handling. You have to, you know, maintain the architecture in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say some of the screen is using recycler view or something, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
mobile app. So in for the recycler views in the if I talk about the corresponding screen in the TV app, so you
Mm-hmm.
can't use directly the recycler view because you can use, but there would be focus issues. So
Mm-hmm.
Android already provided their like they have provided their own library for that, which is known as leanback. So
Mm-hmm.
using the leanback library, there are presenters in the
Mm-hmm.
leanback, and using the presenters, you have to build the UI like
Mm-hmm.
that, which is similar to kind of recycler view in mobile app. So
Mm-hmm.
recycler view in mobile app is like presenters of the leanback in
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know
Smart TVs.
smart TVs or TV apps. So
Yeah.
these are the UI kind of things you have to change, and your data
Mm-hmm.
source and your APIs will remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I'm getting from this thing is like maybe we have to make a module just for this like OTT kind of stuff and
Hmm.
separate it from the Android. We share the business logic into it, but the UI is completely different. And we
Yeah,
just yeah.
if you're having separate module, let's say you are having modular app for which is having different modules for data and UI, then you can
Mm-hmm.
share the data module as well, and you can build up a separate UI part for TV.
Mm-hmm. Super interesting. Like you have, I've seen your LinkedIn bio. You have worked with Automotive as well.
Yeah.
Um, like, what did you work on? And like, if somebody wants to learn about Automotive, how can he learn?
Okay. So firstly, I will start with what automotive OS means. So
Yeah.
and where it's used. So let's say we are all having CarPlay in our
Mm-hmm.
cars. We can connect to the car what we say
Yeah.
automotive OS. Then we can play whatever song. Generally, it's mostly used for songs and music
Mm-hmm.
apps,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's the same like automotive OS is generally a Android platform only, so
Mm-hmm.
it's Android embedded into your car kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an Android OS. And for the Android automotive OS, you have to like let's say you're having a mobile app and you want to play it into automotive OS as well. So
Mm-hmm.
for that you have to build separate screens.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like you have to share the same data layer, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to build a separate UI for the automotive OS.
Mm-hmm.
So for the automotive OS UI, sometimes let's if I talk about the music apps, so
Mm-hmm.
there is a proper service again for the automotive OS, and using the service only, they are
Mm-hmm.
providing the UI embedded into that,
Mm-hmm.
and the service only is building the UI. So how can I tell you? It's like something. There is one service by the Google. It's like music provider,
Mm-hmm.
something provider, and it's providing you like the platform to build the UI as well for the automotive OS,
Mm-hmm.
and the connections are directly provided by the Android platform. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to just have to register your app in the manifest and in the Play Store that it's an automotive
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
kind of app as well. So yeah, there are
Okay.
some permissions actually you have
Mm-hmm.
to take, and then it will allow you to run it on the
Mm-hmm.
automotive.
So it's like we have to just give it like certain permissions, and it might be that the OS itself predicts that it's an automotive app, and it can install it into the automotive devices.
Yeah, but
Uh,
in some cases you have to build some kind of UI for sure. But yeah, mostly it
mhm.
work in that way.
Okay, okay, perfect. Um, like then this is some of the like the basic stuff. I kind of want to go on a tangent here a little bit and talk a little bit about, like, let's say that you are an Android developer and like coming now from like Airtel to I think Wharton, right? Um,
But
okay, yeah. So at your position, like when you were switching from Airtel, how did you go around looking for jobs? I mean, not in a way that like improve your CV. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if we were to say that somebody is looking for a change, right?
hmm,
Somebody is starting to want to start the process of a change, right? How should they do it? And what did you do? That's what my uh,
okay,
question is.
for the change, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. So I think firstly you have to set your goals. Like
Mm-hmm.
firstly, it depends on like everyone's preference, like in which companies they want to shift. Let's say someone is having some kind of goals that these are the 10 companies or kind of companies I want to shift on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the goal, then you know set your goal and you know if you are having some kind of referrals, then check on that what kind of technologies these people are using and these
Mm-hmm.
apps are using, and then go on studying that also. I think for properly, if we talk about interview preparations and getting into companies, for the good companies I think DSA is the must, which
Mm-hmm.
will be the first and the screening round.
Mm-hmm.
And then your system design, and firstly before system design I would say firstly Android basics and advanced Android,
Mhm,
and basically the Android stuff, and then these system design things will be must.
mhm,
And when you have a command on these things, I think we can shift to any of your uh, preferred companies.
mhm. Um, let's just say that, like, is most of the questions that I hear around Twitter as well as other things, is like, is DSA that important? What if I just love building things, but I do not, solve DSA questions at all? Then what to do?
Okay. Firstly, I will start with the importance. You said about like you love building and you
Mm-hmm.
love making the products, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically the developer part you love. But the thing is, with what I feel is without DSA, you can be a good developer, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't be an efficient developer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So DSA will tell you like what data structures you have to use in what uh, you know uh, with the thing that you have to minimize the complexities as well, right? And
Mm-hmm.
which data structure is suited for the best situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you incorporate these things in
Mm-hmm.
your development, I think it would be known as a better and enhanced and
Mm-hmm.
a better development. And without that, you will be doing the development for sure. In your mind, it will be very good, but it's not that much efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my take. Like, it's according to me, it's must. So not only from the interview point of view, but also from your knowledge and your implementation in your code base and whatever product you are building. So it will
Mm-hmm.
be in that era as well. Not only like it's only for clearing the interview rounds and all. So we should
Mm-hmm.
like study that, taking that in mind that it would enhance and like it will make our development efficient actually.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Like, let's just say that what you're thinking upon the future of Android development as such in India, like when you compare hybrid apps like
Hmm.
Flutter, React Native with Android Native. I'm not talking about KMP, but rather hybrid technologies. What's your thinking behind these? Have you used them?
Yeah.
uh, what's your thinking? Yeah.
So I think for the hybrid, whatever I used is mostly Flutter. Android
Mm-hmm.
native I have worked on, but for the Flutter, I will say it's not at the level of native Android. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you build an app in Flutter, for sure it will be a single code base, and it will make you build apps for both Android, iOS, maybe web as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when you run the app, one of the hybrid app on
Mm-hmm.
uh, one of the app on Android platform which is made using hybrid technologies like Flutter, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
app which is made totally in native Kotlin or Java, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both will be having a significant difference in their
Mm-hmm.
performance. And when you, let's say, you are having some kind of list scrolling,
Mm-hmm.
so in hybrid apps you will see that it would be much laggy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, in the case of native, where you're having a full control over the architecture, you will be building it in a more smooth and enhanced way. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, if we like if I want to have a take over the hybrid technologies, so yes, it's making, let's say, for a service based companies or for some startups who are having some kind of set of
MVP.
budget, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are having a minimized budget for that. I think hybrid is good to go.
Mm-hmm.
But if we talk about the performance, and then I think native Android, like the hybrid can't beat native Android.
Yeah,
This is my
100, yeah, 100% I agree. Um, I've seen that when people try to release apps with native hybrid, they tend to lose a lot of performance. And as native developers, for example, in Paytm or in core teams in big companies, they are trying to actually optimize every single thing. So if you're trying to beat a competition where they are actually optimizing everything, it would be really good if you actually transfer to native as compared to hybrid.
right.
That's what my thinking is. But yeah, have you used KMP yourselves, or have you made your app and released it in public? What's your thinking on that?
KMP I have started working on, but yeah, I have worked not much, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on KMP, and I think that would be a good alternative
Mm-hmm.
if you want, because it's providing you I think, some kind of native hold actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not it's not like everything is made for you and just use these
Yeah.
these widgets
Yeah. Yeah.
like just use these widgets. Actually, it's giving you some hold at the native library, so it would
Mm-hmm.
be a better thing, I think, which is KMP. But
Mm-hmm.
from my experience, I think not Flutter.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say like KMP would be much better,
Mm-hmm.
or KMM, whatever, would be much better than Flutter for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like you talked about that you had like personal projects or personal apps. So like you have released some of these apps in the public in on the Play Store.
No, actually, those are for some kind of clients actually, and for
Oh,
my other purpose, no, I haven't released that.
okay. Like, do you plan to release some of the apps? Do you want to go into this like founder mode and release somewhere? What's your thinking on that?
Yeah, like I'm building something right now
Mm-hmm.
also, and once that's completed, I think I will be pushing it to the Play Store for sure.
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's a kind of some, let's say, e-commerce platform we are
Mm-hmm.
building for. We're having some team of people,
Mm-hmm.
and we are working on that, and once it's good to go, we'll be releasing for sure, like recently.
Mm-hmm. So you're managing the whole team, or just going for like development and like how are you? I think so. E-commerce is like very back-end driven. So how are you handling the back-end for this kind of service?
Okay, so currently, like, I'm having people with me, which are like, we are a team of both backend and front end guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are having both the developers. Also, some of the hybrid people are with us as well, which
Mm-hmm.
have joined the group, and
Mm-hmm.
the backend guys are doing their job. Like, they are making the APIs. We are having the perfect database as well, and are hosting services. Yeah, and I am the one who is like taking care of, like, actually on the higher level every stuff, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing with the front end as well.
Mm-hmm. Seems
So I'm
super
doing.
interesting. I would love to hear about it more as if it gets released. Do let me know. Um, Other than that, like, have you worked with some like interesting features? Like, I think so. Android XR got released late in latest, and they were working with AR and VR features. Have you worked around in and around that?
Currently, not actually.
Yeah.
I haven't, explored that area
Mhm.
currently.
Yeah, it seems super interesting to me because I think AR and VR will be some kind of future in the longer run.
For sure, for
But,
sure. Mm,
but yeah, I usually now like
mm.
go on again on a tangent here, where I actually try to ask people about their personal finances in and try to understand what they spend their money on, in a way that, like, let's just say that you are, whatever your salary is right now, right? What How do you divide your salary in such a way that you have guilt free spending, you have this much amount of saving, this much goes into investing? How do you divide your salary?
Okay, so for that, I'm not having any kind of proper calculation, but for the higher overview, I will tell you like most of my spendings, which I do, are mostly on my
Yes.
clothings and
Oh.
yeah. So mostly on the clothings, and whatever I have, I will be saving, or sometimes I'm investing in mutual funds as well.
Mm-hmm.
So for the investment part is mostly in the mutual funds or some kind of property investments.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, property investments are not which are regular. So
Mm-hmm.
property investment is something which is once in a year, once in a 6 months kind of quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly the part which I'm investing is the mutual funds, which is a kind of substantial growth and continuous,
Mm-hmm.
thing which is going on. And yeah, others are just normal savings, and the one which I have like I'm spending on is my clothing and some of the things, and some of the books I have some practice to read, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all. Like some of the books I have the practice of reading some books, so I'm spending on that and my
Yeah.
clothing, nothing else. Yeah.
And do you like spend like on books that are fictional or on just like self improvement stuff? What do you spend on?
Yeah, I am not a fan of actually fictional.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the books which are, let's say, self improvements, yeah, you talk about, or some
Mm-hmm.
of the programming books as well. Let's say programmatic programmer or clean
Yeah,
code.
yeah.
Some of the books which I love to read.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things. Like these, this is the basically the genre I
Yeah,
explore,
yeah,
but not fictional things. I'm not a fan of that.
yeah, yeah. Like, do you have any favorite book like related to self development? One self development and one coding related book. What's your favorite?
Okay, so for the self improvement of self development, I have read like Atomic Habits. I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be my favorite one. And for programming, I think Programmatic Programmer, which I read last year, would be good to go. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Seems interesting. I think so. I have the pragmatic programmer on my wish list. I definitely need to buy that one. And there's one more design patterns for in Kotlin. I think I want that one as well.
Hmm.
um yeah. When it comes to finances as such, like,
Hmm.
are you into like, studying into mutual funds, stocks, equity? Like, what's your division of your investments? Is it just mutual funds? Is it, it includes equity, gold? How is it, how's the division right now?
Mostly is into mutual funds actually. If
Mm-hmm.
we talk about shares and stuff, so I mostly like invest into small cap funds
Mm-hmm.
because there is risk, but there
Yeah,
is like
high growth
out,
as well.
yeah, they will go higher in in short span of time, but yeah, risk is also associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mostly like major part I invested with mutual funds, which is small cap funds,
Mm-hmm.
and little bit I just invested in for long term investment in the long like what these funds are called, which are having very you know which are opposite to small cap funds having less
Mm-hmm.
stress. So yeah.
Mm. Like, do you have any advice to select these small cap funds? Like, how do you study on them? What do you do?
Uh, Study. Okay, I didn't uh, much study or research on them, but yes, actually, when someone starts doing these kind of things and like investing in the funds, then gradually with time and having with their experience, actually I will say there would be more learning based on the
Mm-hmm.
apart from what we are reading and then
Mm-hmm.
implementing. So I think the experience will tell us more in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
field.
Yeah, sounds perfect. I guess these are all the questions that I had in from my side. If you have any, parting suggestion for me or someone who is watching this podcast, that would be great.
Yeah, so the suggestion would be like we should all you know at least participate in open source
Hmm.
actually, and
Hmm.
that would be a better thing, and that will build your self confidence, and that will improve your code as well, and tell
Hmm.
you how the things are going in the production environment and what the
Hmm.
people are using and how the things are working from the back end to
Hmm.
front end, like the whole stream.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that would be a tip that we should invest some time in that, like which is the open source, read about
Hmm.
it and contribute it actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, that yeah.
Like, you talked about like open source as such. Like, let's just say, I think most developers face this problem that they do not have an app to contribute to. How do you even find good repositories that we want to explore and start contributing? How do you find this?
So, okay, so there are a lot of open source GitHub repositories. Also,
Hmm.
you just have to type open source repositories, and there are a lot of some things I can some of the repos I remember. Let's say there is a music app, VI Music, right?
Hmm.
And it's completely open source. You can study the code, you can raise the PR, get your PR
Hmm.
points, and
Hmm.
you will good to go with that as well. So there are several music apps, there are
Hmm.
several e-commerce apps which are open source. You just have to like search on the web some
Hmm.
of the, like the open source platforms and the open source GitHub repositories, and you will find a lot.
Hmm.
uh, but make sure you are like working on the latest ones, and then
Hmm.
only you will be having some kind of improvement in your
Hmm.
architecture. You will be came to know how MVI, now people are just shifting to sometimes MVI when they are using
Hmm.
compose and stuff with the
Yeah, yeah.
development. So you will came to know how the things are managed, what's the difference basically from MVVM to MVI, how the migration works, these all things.
Hmm. I guess it's just when it comes to open source, it's kind of overwhelming, and mostly what happens is that if you were to have like an app, if we were to dedicate our time just to contribute, just for the sake of contributing, it so happens that we tend to do nothing. But rather, if you want to improve a certain app that you like use in your day to day life, or maybe a library that we want to improve, then
Hmm.
the open source contributions would be much better to contribute to.
Hmm.
That's what my thinking is. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
actually, yeah, you're right. In the open source, like you can study the project, you can see whatever better improvements you can make. You can
Hmm.
propose those, and then you can raise the PR and get it merged. Exactly right.
Hmm. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, thank you for coming on, and yeah, it was a great conversation, and yeah, I'll try to mention your socials in the description as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, again, thank you for coming on.
sure.
Hello, hello. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. And if you do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe as always. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.